Okay, James Popsis, you did it to me again. Hey, welcome to another video. Recently I was watching a video from James Popsis, and he talked about whether your images had to be perfect or not. And he showed a couple examples of not taking out a phone wire, along with cropping out or not cropping out a fence post. And he wondered if everything has to be so perfect in your images, or should they be closer to reality? And it got me to thinking about a topic that's fairly similar. I don't want to steal his idea. I thought his video was pretty good and well done, and you should go check it out when you have a moment. Don't go just yet. You can watch this one first and then go. Or better yet, watch about 5 of mine. Then you can go watch James's video. Along those lines, it got me to thinking. I did a video a while ago about whether portrait photographers show their bias when they take photos of their subjects. So it got me to thinking yet again after watching James's video and thinking about the one I had done before. And that is, do photographers show their personality through their work? And some would say, well, that's a no-brainer. Well, is it? And how do they show their personality? If it's a no-brainer, yes or no, how do they or how do they not? And I wanted to talk about it for a moment. And I would hope that you would leave some comments as to your opinion of it. And I don't really want to confuse your style with your personality. I think that they're similar, but they're two different things. And let me explain. In recent months, my style, especially with the birds, my style has been to underexpose the background and to brighten the subject a little bit. For the heron, to mostly turn them to black and whites, to make them a little bit more of a high contrast, yet put anywhere from a 5% to a 25% platinum gradient over top of the black and white. And with my grandkids, sometimes what I've been doing is either just making them black and white, including underexposing the background, but sometimes I make it about a 70-75% black and white and still put the platinum gradient over top of it. And that's how I'm achieving the look that I'm getting in recent photographs. That's a style. That's not necessarily my personality, but that's a style. And in years past, when I was shooting a lot of baseball, I tried to make them look like a cross between watercolor photos and maybe oil paintings. That's a style, not necessarily my personality. So I got to thinking about it with some other channels that I follow and likely you follow as well on YouTube. And I know I speak about him from time to time, but Thomas Heaton, when he photographs, he likes doing minimalistic in a square format. Not always, but a lot of times. Is that his style? Yes. Does it match his personality? I don't know, because I don't know Thomas, but he seems to like that style. Gavin Hardcastle likes the big wide open vistas where it says a lot. And his personality seems to be friendly, jovial, yet takes his photography seriously. Does his personality match his style and his photographs? Alistair Benn over Expressive Photography. He has spoken many times about being very intimate with the landscape. And he seems to be, and here again, I don't know any of these people, but he seems to be a very soft-spoken, easygoing guy. And his style seems to match his images. So I find it kind of interesting to match your personality with your style. Of course, your personality may change somewhat over time. I know my style changes all the time as to the way I process my images. Part of it is because of what I learn, and part of it is just maybe my mood. I have a friend from college. Every time I do infrared, like one of these images here, I bought the camera to do really high contrast black and whites with the infrared. And what I've turned out to end up doing quite recently are more muted soft colors as opposed to the stark black and white. And my college buddy is always leaving comments on Facebook when I post one of these photos about, oh, you must be depressed, you must be this, you must be that, they're always so dark and moody. And I don't necessarily see it that way. When I process these photos, I see it more as trying to find the softness in nature and trying to find the more muted colors in nature. So I don't necessarily find it as depressing, but just the way I feel when I shoot infrared. So again, is that a style or a personality or both? And I got to thinking about it even more years ago when I had a friend that always would tell me, oh, all you do is photograph birds and baseball. Well, those were the two things that I was really interested in at the time. I still am a pretty big sports fan, though we won't get off on the topic of how sports can sometimes tick me off these days. But at the time, that's what I was interested in. And so I would shoot a lot of sports. Plus my kids were growing up and I was photographing middle school sports and high school sports, and I got involved with Max Preps, and I started shooting a lot of high school sports at the time. So I didn't necessarily have a style, but that's where I was at that time in my life, if that's what makes sense. So those were my subjects. And I started thinking about it more and more a few years back when I had heart surgery and I had some blood clots and some other issues, and my rehab took me to the beach a lot, to just walk on the beach early in the morning, try to get my steps in, get some fresh air. And because of that, I began to notice the seascapes a lot more and what the light would do early in the morning and also late at night. And I began photographing sunrise and moonrises. And that's where I was at that time in my life. And was that my personality? And I didn't necessarily, unfortunately, I don't know that I created a style for seascapes. And that's why I think that you can separate your personality and where you are in that point in your life versus your style. That's why I can say I think that they're two different things. Maybe they feed off each other, but I believe that they're two different things and you can separate the two. So I just wanted to create this video, have you think about it for a little bit. Think about your own photography, and is it more a matter of, well, where you are in your life, and so those are the subjects that you shoot, and you develop a style from that, or maybe you don't develop a style from that? Because now I'm in a different stage of my life where, other than doing these videos and hopefully finishing this book that I've been working on for a while now, those are the two things that I really work at this particular time. Trying to get this YouTube channel going. And I'm up over 800 subscribers. I know that that's a tiny, minuscule number compared to most channels on YouTube. But, you know, you had to start somewhere. And I started with one, right? So thank you, and I do appreciate the over 800 subscribers that I do have. Hopefully some of those 800 actually still watch some of my videos. I'm sure they do, because I have certain people that'll comment, that are kind enough to leave comments over a number of videos. So I know I do have repeat subscribers who watch. So the point of this video is, since James Popsis made me think about what he calls turning up the volume and turning down the volume of minimalistic, I think maybe that's just where he is in his life right now. You know, he has a child now. He's married with a kid. And again, I don't know James. He moved from where he was to Wales, and his life has changed. So maybe his whole perspective on his photography has changed. And that's why he made that video about turning down the volume. And maybe everything doesn't have to be so perfect, because he's a father now and he understands that everything isn't going to be perfect. And maybe that's overflowing into his photography. I don't know. Only he can answer that question. But I know with myself, when I was at different stages in my life, I would photograph different subjects. I didn't necessarily always create a style from that. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Did it match my personality? My personality's pretty much always been the same. And so when I went back and started looking at some of these photographs, whether they be sports, seascapes, my family, infrared, travel, street, whatever genre of photography I would photograph, I do find a similarity to them. Even with sports, I would shoot some action, but I would shoot a lot of portrait type things where the action is slowed down. And with my family, even when I'm shooting sports of my grandkids, a lot of times they're more portrait oriented as opposed to action oriented. And with the birds, yeah, sometimes you have no choice but to photograph them flying with their wings, because that's maybe what's best with birds. But occasionally I will shoot a lot of portrait style photographs of birds. I just don't post them on YouTube, but I have a lot of them. It still matches my personality, which is easygoing, pretty low key. I don't usually get too excited about too many things. And even though the subjects and what I photograph has changed over time, I believe that my personality has come through in those images, even if there is or isn't a particular style at that time in my life. So just think about it. Think about it in terms of your own photography, and maybe it'll help you. Maybe it'll help you see through, hey, what am I missing? Why can't I develop a style? Why can't I develop this? Or did my style come from my personality? Just think about it. All right, thanks for listening. Hopefully you made it all the way to the end. I tried to make it concise yet say what I was trying to think about. You know, most of the times I have an idea in my head where I want these videos to go, but rarely, like here, rarely do I have a script. I kind of make mental notes because that's the way I write my novels. I come up with an idea in my head and then I just write, and it just goes where it goes. And that's why sometimes my videos can seem a little choppy, because I have a concept in my mind. I don't just turn on the camera and go, what am I going to say now? I have an idea, but I don't have it scripted word for word, obviously. All right, thanks for watching. Take good care. Till next time, I'll see you soon.